Reflex arc, what happens in reflex reactions? By the end of this video clip, students will be able to define the reflexes and reflex arc, differentiate voluntary and involuntary reactions, and explain the components of reflex arc. Observe the movement of a freely hanging leg when it is hit by a rubber hammer gently on the knee. How quickly the leg moves backwards. Imagine that you are about to be stepped on a sharp object. On sensing the sharp object, you draw out your foot immediately. Do you think anything before removing foot from the object? No. Thinking actually involves the brain. Thinking is a complex process, takes a little bit of time to respond. Hence, the responses occur during the dangerous situations involve no brain. They occur under the control of the spinal cord. Reflex is an involuntary and sudden response to a stimulus in order to adapt to adverse conditions. Reflexes occur under the control of spinal cord. In voluntary responses conducted in our consciousness, the receptor in the sensory organ receives a stimulus, produces signals, sends them through the sensory nerve. Sensory nerve carries the signals to the spinal cord. Spinal cord then relays the signals to the brain. Brain takes the signals, analyzes and produces commands and sends them again to the spinal cord. Spinal cord relays the commands through the motor nerve to the effector. Effectors are the muscles. They respond what the command says. The process occurs during voluntary responses like raising your hand to answer a question or crossing a road on foot. But reflex responses do not involve the processing of signals by the brain. The spinal cord bypasses the path of reflex reactions. In the reflex response of drawing out the leg from a sharp object, the receptor cells in the skin receive the stimulus, send the impulses or signals through the sensory nerve. The sensory nerve carries the signals to the spinal cord. Spinal cord intermediate cells relay the signals directly through the motor nerve. Motor nerve carries the signals to the effectors, the muscles in your leg. The leg muscles will draw out your foot from the sharp object. Hence, we can define the reflex arc as the shortest path of involuntary responses controlled by the spinal cord. Reflex responses occur without our consciousness and thinking. The components of the reflex arc are receptors, specialized cells in the sensory organs, those receive stimulus. Sensory nerve that carries the signals from the receptors to the spinal cord. Spinal cord relay the signals to the motor nerve. Motor nerve that controls the effector by bringing signals to the effectors. Effectors finally are the muscles that show the appropriate response. Can you explain the reflex arc in this situation touching the hot object? Now you can define the reflexes and reflex arc. Differentiate voluntary and involuntary responses and explain the components of the reflex arc. Thank you.